decided that we were going to do a tape for all the people out there who are into pinball, since everybody's been complaining lately that their Pingame Journal, which is that cool little magazine that Jim Schulberg in Detroit puts out, hasn't been coming in the mail, and they've been doing nothing but bitching. We decided we would go ahead and do a tape and just send it out to people. Why a tape instead of just doing one of my little funny books that I usually send out is Albin is here. He's the guy running the camera today, and we decided that a tape would be better because then you get lots of color and you get sound, so you can hear what the games sound like instead of just looking at boring black and white pictures in a magazine. You get a 2-hour tape of all kinds of pinball stuff. And the way it works is you're getting this tape probably in the mail for free. You probably didn't ask for it. We just sent a bunch of them out. And what we're doing is asking that everybody that's watching this tape send me $6. And that'll cover the cost of the postage and the tape. If you want to send more, go ahead and send more. Basically, we're just kind of like paying for the tape and the postage out of our own pockets and trusting people to send in $6. The way it works is if this works out and enough people send in $6, we'll go ahead and do another tape, and anybody that sends in automatically gets the second tape, and then if we have any money left over, we'll keep sending them out for free to deadbeats. So don't be a deadbeat or a scumbag. Here's what you got to do. Take your $6 or more. If you want to send in more, I won't stop you. Send it in to me. If you got to make a check out, make it out to me, not to the Pinball Collectors Club, but just make it out to me. Send it in here, and just like KAR, just like all the NPR stations, we're having a begathon. We're saying we want you to send in your money, and we got valuable premiums for people who send in money. What we got for people who send in 10 to 20 bucks. We got one of these, freshly killed. This is not a rat. This is a genuine Pingame Gerbil, straight from a basement in Detroit. So if you send in 20 bucks, we'll give you one of these gerbils. And then we get into the really good stuff. If you send in, I don't know, 30 to 50 bucks, we'll send you a genuine Bally Evel Knievel new old stock t-shirt. So if you got an Evel Knievel game, you don't have the game until you have the official t-shirt. And that's, we bought like 50 of these when the game first came out, and I still have some left. So keep in mind that whatever you send in, we won't keep any of the money. I'll use it all for postage and for videotapes. And also we got the Pinball book by Gary Fowler. I got still have about 10 cases of these left, and this book is out of print, and it's full of a lot of good color pictures and stuff. You got all kinds of pinball history and stuff, all sorts of good crap. And you can get this for this or the t-shirt, your choice, for a $50 thing. So send in a whole bunch of money and you get a whole bunch of cool stuff, or send in $6 and you'll get the next tape. The way we're going to do this is we're just going to take a wander along here. This is probably what we think is the world's largest pinball collection. It certainly is the most pinballs that have been assembled in one place at one time that are up and running. So we're going to take a brief walkthrough, and we're going to ask for requests. If we do a second tape and you want to see a particular game featured in the second tape, when you drop me the $6, say, well, I can't live without more details about this game, and we'll take requests for the second tape. So yeah, let's stop for a second. I got to.
Here we go.
Are we on?
You were on.
Okay, this is Spirit of 76. Kind of an 4-player. Here's a dead Gottlieb System 80 game, Force 2. Again, System 80 games, not really my favorite.
Okay. You may want to go a little bit slower.
Okay, got to slow down a little bit?
Yeah.
Here's a haunted house. If you ever get a chance, don't buy a haunted house because they hardly ever work. This one blew a fuse again, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, maybe we'll just tell a little bit more about the game as I stop by it, just so you can get a better.
Okay.
As we do it.
This is Rocky. This was based on the movie. And if you ever see the Rocky, I think it's Rocky 3, the movie, you'll see him standing next to this game. But in the movie, it's in a black hole cabinet. It must have been a prototype or something because it has the chaser lights on the back. So all the production Rockies had a normal cabinet, but the one in the movie was apparently in a black hole cabinet. This one has a new playfield, and of course he's got the infamous titty spider. That scares me. And this is Timeline. This is another one of those System 80 games that really weren't very good. It's kind of It's got a little mini playfield up there on the left. And this is Krull. I'm sure a lot of people have never seen this game. They only made 10 of these. This was a prototype that they decided not to build after Gottlieb went out of business and then opened up again. They decided not to build this one. We only know of 3 of these that exist. 3 of the 10 are still around. So it's got a little mini playfield underneath that you see through that reducing lens. That's what that tunnel effect is under there. And here's another dead System 80 game. This one's Volcano. And I think it also blew its fuse. No, that one's got a good fuse. Oh, the ball's stuck. Here's the problem. Ball's stuck up there. But yeah, it's got the chaser lights, same as the black hole. Okay, we got this is some bingos I got. We're over on the other side. This is a nightclub. It's what's called a turning corners bingo. Later in this tape, we're going to go into a bingo in depth. This is a Surmo Manhattan. This bingo was made in 1981 over in Belgium. It's all digital, which is quite nice if you've ever worked on a bingo. Got that for free. That was one of my dumpster dives. And here's a really weird game called Orbiter 1. And if you want to, if you're interested in seeing all the gruesome details of this game, when you send us your $6, you deadbeats, go ahead and request this one, and next time we'll go into depth on this. This is a Bobo from 1961. It's got one of these space age Jetsons cabinets that everybody hates, with the drink shelf that's always all rusted and banged up. Another System 80 game, Gottlieb's Star Race. And we're just kind of jetting through these real quick, but each one of these represents about a week out of my life to go ahead and rebuild them like this. Now here we have a Spanish Eyes and a Grenada. Now, if you look at the back glass on this, they're both the same because I only have 2 Spanish Eyes glasses. So if you're out there and you happen to have a spare Grenada glass, let me know. If you look at the playfields, this is a short flipper version here, and this is the one everybody's more familiar with here, the long flipper version, Spanish Eyes. They made Grenada for New York and Wisconsin, where apparently it was people liked the short flipper games more. And it was a great game. We made a lot of money with Spanish Eyes. And here's my flying circus. We'll be going into depth later on this very game. Here's one of the newer games, a space station. I got this from a guy at the sandwich shop up on the corner for $200. It's one of those new games with all the ramps and bells and whistles and stuff. Gottlieb's Sure Shot is this next one. It's one of the late 70s pool games. Everybody thinks Gottlieb makes great pool games and card games. Here's a Lucky Ace. This is a single-player version of Dealer's Choice, and for a Williams game, it's actually a pretty good game. Steve Kordek was kind of hitting his stride at that point as a designer. Shipmates. A lot of people like the Shipmates. It's also, there's a trivial fact, it's the highest production game of any game in the 60s. So that's your Shipmates with the giant sailor and the little baby chicks that he's got on his arm. That's also the 4th back glass that I've had on that. I've managed to trade up to better glass each time. And we're going to skip over this Sure Shot because that's a duplicate. Here's a Williams Olympics. This Olympics is kind of weird because it's got Roy Parker art on it, one of only 3 games that we know of that Roy Parker did for Williams. Generally he stuck with the Genco, Chicago Coin, and Gottlieb games. but those are definitely Parker babes there, and Parker butts. And later we're going to get into the fact that Mr. Parker had a problem drawing people's hands, and wherever possible he would try to make the hands disappear behind something. If you look at the girl on the diving board there, she conveniently kind of puts her hands behind her legs there, so he didn't have to draw them. And when we were kids, we used to tell which artist it was. We called him the guy with the cheeks and the problem with the hands. We didn't know what his name was. But yeah, this is actually an interesting game. If you get a chance to get in Olympics, it's pretty cool. This one here is an Eager Beaver. This is an Art Stenholm game. The glass is Art Stenholm. You can tell it's got that kind of cartoony style. It's also a terrible glass. If you know anybody that's got a better one, this one's just hammered. But, you know, I like the game. It's a fun machine. So, Wisconsin State Champ. And this is a triple action. This is another Steve Kordak game. A great game with that big spinner in the middle. Don't think much of the artwork, but the spinner is always fun to hit that and send it spinning around like crazy. I put those blinking lights in there just kind of to whore the thing up. And here's Big Ben. This is part of the late 70s Let's Get Groovy phase. You get all these groovy guys and groovy gals on Westminster Bridge, and there's that stupid clock thing in the background. It's a pretty mediocre game. I mean, as far as games go, this is where Steve Kordak was falling a little bit into his formula. And here's a broken volley game. This is odd. Usually Gottlieb games don't break, but for some reason this one's off. This is a pretty good game. I like drop target games, and this is real simple. Just hit 3 banks of drop targets. Boom, boom, boom. Here's Buck Rogers. And hey, this is one of these new circuit boards that they came out with. One of these knee-wump boards, and sure enough, it refuses to work. So apparently I have a problem with this already. Well, there's another one dead. Here's a Surfin' Safari 1991 game. We're going to be going through this in depth more later in the tape, so this is one of the ones we've picked for our first tape to go into depth on. This is a great game. If you ever get a chance to get one, you should. I think it's freaking out our camera there.
Yeah, let's.
He's going to have to focus. This is Satan's Doll. This is, we used to call it Satan's Doll. I got this at the first Phoenix show for 50 bucks. This game is in great shape, and it was going for 50 bucks. And didn't like the game much. It kind of grew on me. But it's real pretty. You know, a lot of people like that Art Deco look of it. And here's the 5th game I ever owned. Dixieland. And this was the first time I realized that pinball could be asymmetrical and still be fun. If you look at this playfield, the left side is absolutely different from the right side. That was one of Ted Zale's trademarks as a designer, was the fact that he would use asymmetrical playfields. And it kind of opened up a whole new world for me as far as left side versus right side. Didn't think I was going to like it. Bought it from a bunch of old hippies in a beads store. But I've had this game for a long time, and it's a great game if you get a chance to get one. Here's a Heat Wave. This is a game everybody's after all of a sudden because now they have the reproduction glass. That's a new reproduction glass that I think the Engels at Mayfair Amusement did. You can see the detail and the color is real fine on it. Yeah, zoom in on the Hooters, you pervert. But it's got this temperature thingy. And what that is the original one was all rusted out, so I took one of those red ribbons that Mothers Against Drunk Driving were giving out. Finally found a use for the red ribbons of Mothers Against Drunk Driving and mounted it on here and painted the rest of it white. So that used to be all rusted out. And the cabinet, I got this from Danger Dan down in Phoenix, and the cabinet's painted all this horrible purple enamel paint. Ugh! Hideous. This is Suspense. This is the first Williams game with long flippers. In fact, it's the first pinball ever, not a horse game, with long flippers. And they weren't too sure if they were going to like it or not, so they put both long flippers and short flippers on the same game. There's your short flipper and the long flipper. Unfortunately, I remember playing this game as a kid, and there's absolutely no way to control the ball because they wired it up so that the center flippers work all the time, and the left flipper works with the left button. So you end up getting confused and flipping wrong. This one's a Gottlieb Circus. It's a beautiful game to look at. Lots of nice colors, nice big wide open play field, but unfortunately there's nothing to shoot for. So I don't know, it's a pretty good game. Put a new play field on this one, it's in real good shape. Here's Spider-Man, and the first thing anybody says when they see the Spider-Man is, did you see when David Letterman threw a Spider-Man off the 12-story tower? And yes, I've got that on tape somewhere. Somebody on the East Coast called me up and said, you got to tape Letterman tonight. He's pushing a Spider-Man off a 12-story tower. And many times I have wanted to push this game off a 12-story tower because it just doesn't want to work. Here's a Jack's 2 Open, which is a digital version of Jack's Open, the mechanical game. It's virtually the same game with a couple rules changes. If you get a chance to get one, it's got real neat sound. No, of course not. There's no credits on it. It's got great sound, which the original didn't have. And plays you a little song there. And just like the original Jack's Open, you have to open with a pair of jacks, then you have to get 3 queens, then you got to get the full house, then you got to get the royal flush. Then it'll automatically pull down all the black targets up here, and you shoot for the royal flush to get your double bonus, extra ball, and special. Great target shooting game if you're into shooting targets. This is Counterforce. This has to be in my top 20 games of all time because it's everything that the Space Invaders pinball should have been. It's a great game. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work again. No, it's stuck in a loop. And this is the special vegetarian Counterforce with the eat meat drop targets. I had some tag teams. I had a whole box of tag team drop targets. So I decided to turn tag team into eat meat. This also has a new playfield on it. Great game if you get a chance to get one. Arabian Nights, if you deadbeats send in your $6 and we do another one of these tapes, we'll go into depth on this game. I could talk for hours on the subtle differences in the way this game plays. It reaches out and fucks with your mind because every feature is balanced off against another feature. If you get a chance to get one, and the best thing about it is you almost can see a nipple. That's like, when I was a kid, that was like unheard of to get that much bare titty in a game. That's like very risque. But everybody that's watching this tape did the same thing. They would go and they would look at, they didn't put them women on there just to be ignored. But yeah, that's Roy Parker there. Great artwork, great artwork. Fun game to play. Very few of these left. If you get a chance to get one, buy it. Here's an Alvin G Pistol Poker. This is one of those Alvin G games. It's kind of a pity they went out of business because this wasn't a bad game. This is one of those ones that they closed out when they closed the factory. I don't have too many new games. This is one of them. And then we go to one of the worst games ever made. Yes, James Bond 007. It's an ugly game. It's hideously ugly. It looks like somebody did the artwork with a crayon. It's no fun to play. There's nothing to shoot for. And you're playing against time, which means you don't get 5 balls. You get a certain amount of time units. It just blows. You can still pick up these games for $50, $100, $75. I don't know why, but for some reason, I put a new playfield on this game. I probably paid more for the playfield than I did for the whole game. Yeah, that's supposed to be who? Roger Moore? Sean Connery?
Both.
Yeah.
Connery Roger Connery.
Yeah. But it's a horrible game. And here's a Sinbad. And again, this has got the new Niewumpf board in it. This is that replacement board that they're selling for the System 1 games. And if you look here, the original board was about this big. And this one is now half the size and it has 1/3 less chips. And every single Gottlieb game is in this memory. And you select which game you want by throwing these dip switches here. The only problem is if you've got any corrosion on your connectors, be ready to replace connectors like I have here with this one. yeah, that's the new that new circuit board. I've got this little sign up here. Go ahead and give them a shot of the sign. If you want the particulars about the board, there's everything you need to know about the board. You can stop your camera and peruse that at your leisure. And then you got to show them the new one is the one on the right there. Yeah, that's everything you need to know about this board. I'm not going to make a recommendation on this at this point. Here's an old game. This is a Gottlieb's Toreador. This one's from 1956. This one's got a real rotten glass, but then again, it's hard to find the old stuff with a good glass. This has got the big tank playfield, we used to call it, because it looks like a Sherman tank. It's got all this wood. It's real steady. You can't shake it because it's got these immense wooden legs. And there's monitors stored everywhere. Immense wooden legs. I never liked them much as a player because you couldn't shake them, but they really do look nice when you get the wood refinish like this.
And the leopard lady.
Yeah, the leper lady. This is from that opera about the chick with a really bad skin condition. She's like super zits. Here's another game that everybody seems to want, Pink Panther. It's not a great game, but people want it because of the theme, you know, the Pink Panther. And it's kind of weird because you don't see the actual Pink Panther in the glass except for right down here in the corner. He's kind of checking out the jewels and her butt at the same time. But of course, you know, if you got to have a pinball machine, you got to have a scantily clad woman on it somewhere. So this one's really bad. If you know anybody that's got a new Pink Panther back glass, I need one. I haven't been able to find one. Over here we have Fashion Show. I don't know why this one isn't on. This is again a representation of Parker art, and you can see he has a thing about cheeks. He always has very prominent cheeks on all his women, and again, if you look at the woman in the center, you'll notice that her hands have disappeared. She's kind of either scratching her butt or he didn't want to draw her hands. But I noticed that as a kid. And this one is a foreign model because it doesn't have the zip code. If you look up here, it says a Gottlieb Flipper skill game instead of Chicago 60651. So you can always tell a foreign game by the fact that it has no zip code on it. This is High Speed. A lot of people feel that High Speed started a new era in pinball. It certainly was an innovative and different game. I was never particularly fond of it, but we made a lot of money with it. And me being as big a whore as anyone else, I guess I can live with that. Oh, and this one's signed by Steve Ritchie. This is like an autographed edition right along there. You got the man signed it, so if you want it now you got to pay twice as much because it's autographed. Here's Countdown. Countdown won a trophy for Best of Show at the Phoenix Pinball Show a couple of years ago. I brought it down there and I just put a new playfield on it. It was running real good and apparently people liked it. Genesis, here's a trivia question for you. Find as many pinball parts as you can in that back glass. If you ever see a Genesis back glass, you can pick out several pinball assemblies on the back wall. Apparently they just took stuff off the shelf. If you look right here, there's a Gottlieb 4 drop target bank right there. That gizmo is actually a pinball part in the back glass. Asteroid Annie, this one here is an unfortunate experiment in single-player digital games. They never did it again, and they only made either 211 or 311 of these. Very scarce, very hard game to find. Kind of too bad. It's got a lot of cool aliens on it. There's Ugly Mike's sister right there. Ugh, she's hideous.
But she can cook.
Yeah, yeah. Here's Pinball Pool. This is another one of those System 1 games. This also has that new circuit board in it. And it's got one display out. Hey! So apparently while I haven't been back here for a while, these games decide to break. Here's an Alvin G's Dinosaur Eggs. This is an excuse for them to use up a bunch of extra cabinets they had. It's a pitifully awful game. It's supposed to be a redemption game. Spits out the the tickets at you. It's like gambling for little kids. It's like games that spit out tickets are like crack and heroin. They just get you hooked. Yeah, it's got that little display thingy up on top. Here's Bally's Twin Win. A lot of people are interested in this game until they play it a little bit. It's not a great game to play, and it had a very troubled history. If you're interested, we can go over this in detail in the next tape, but there's actually quite a few odd things about the history of this game. And it's got the spinning disc right in the middle. We'll start it up. No, we won't. It's broken. There we go. Now it's starting up. This disc here spins, and what it does is it hypnotizes you when you're playing the game. So it's automatically subliminally programming your head so that you like Bally games if you look at it. So don't look at it. Don't look at it. You'll get hypnotized. This is a target pool. This is one of the games I grew up playing. I used to play this at the Yankee department store in Michigan. It's got pool for a theme. Gottlieb did lots of pool themes. It's got targets, stand-up targets instead of drop targets. And it's a pretty good game. I liked it. Let's stop here. This is Yanks. This is one of the early baseball flipper type games, and it's got the reverse flippers that nobody likes. It's not much fun to play, but it's kind of unique because every time you hit a single, little men pop up in the back. Let's see if I can hit one. There we go. A little man pops up in the back and goes running around. This was the first. We were sitting around the other night trying to figure out, and we think this is the first flipper pinball with a back glass animation. So those guys actually pop up on those little roto things and actually run around.
1948?
1948, yep. We think this is the first flipper pinball with a back glass animation. And here's the Cinderella. This is Gottlieb's third flipper pinball. It's virtually the same as Humpty Dumpty, which was the first flipper pinball. And this is one of those reproduction glasses that Herb Silvers did in LA. I try not to plug things, but unless it's something that's really good, and this is a really excellent reproduction of a glass. The mirroring is perfect, the colors are great, the lines are fine and detailed. Even if you don't get the glass, I would consider getting a glass now if you're interested in the game. And boy, that's like some weird foot shots there. But yeah, it's if you get a chance, Cinderella is exceptionally pretty game. And what happens, maybe we can show them here. As you go along and score, you'll see that the pumpkins will turn into a see, a pumpkin turns into a car. The only way to make it stop is to tilt the machine. And here's Just 21. Now they made a special version of this game for Michael Jackson called Just 11. But this is an example of a reproduction glass that is not very good. If you look at the detail on this, the skin has turned green. I don't know if you can see it. And this was supposed to be purple. It's actually brown. And if you look at the line detail where it says a product of D. Gottlieb and Company, it looks almost hand done. It looks like somebody kind of did it by hand, and it doesn't look like as nice as it could be. But again, considering what I had for an original, this is a lot better. So yeah, not all reproduction glasses are the same. There are good ones and there's bad ones. Yeah, get a crotch shot. There you go. You pervert.
It's only a cartoon.
It's only a cartoon. Yeah, get off of it. Here's Teacher's Pet. This is a Steve Kordek game. One of his first with Williams. And this is when Williams was putting these little strips on here. These strips were for the location's name. You could get some stick-on letters and put Joe's Bar and Grill along there. They thought that was really space age. Kind of a neat game. You got
year 65.
1965. Yep. This is Valley Happy Tour. This one is it's got Louis Renard art on it, which I always liked Louis Renard's art. And this is an added ball version. Instead of replays, you have a little window here that says added balls. And it's a replay counter with a special wide score dial on it that has a number from 0 to 10. And instead of winning a free game, you actually win an added ball. This is a very low production game. They only made, I think, 250 of these. Yeah, see, this is definitely Louis Renard. You can always tell because of the angles, the sharp angles on the eyes and things, and around the corners of this guy's mouth. You can tell the guy's style. And if you want to, on the next tape, if you deadbeats send me $6, I had a discussion with George Malenton about illegal immigrants that worked at ad posters in Chicago and why it seems like there's so many French guys doing art on the pinball machines. I have the answer as to why. So that's a tease for the next tape. This one's an Expo. This is one of the Christian Marsh Cubist games with we used to call them the guys with the pointy elbows and the noses. I never really liked that style at all. I thought it was hideously ugly, and I still do. Not a great game, but it's got an interesting animation on the back glass. That arrow goes spinning around, which is kind of neat. And oh, look at this. This is unique. It's a broken Gottlieb game. Gee, I wonder what happened to it. Well, at least it's waking up a little bit. It's a wrestling theme. Don't know who designed it. Don't know who did the art. But at some point during the play, all these red lights come on, and yeah, there you go. You just went into the red mode. Not a very cool game, but here's a Grand Slam. This is a game I grew up playing quite a bit. And I always liked the bullseye effect, where the back glass art continues onto the cabinet art. I thought that was pretty damn cool as a kid. Ugly Mike likes this game.
Yes, he does.
Yes, it's got all the classic baseball scoring, and of course, if you get pissed off, you can always hit the ball with a bat. I like bat instead of flipper. This is another one of my favorite games of all time. This one I just finished last week, so it's not plugged in yet. This is 2001. This is Ed Krinsky's design. It's classic Gordon Morrison space artwork. You got chicks in boots, and you got guys in boots on surfboards. I mean, this looks great. It plays great, and it's got 20, count them, 20 drop targets on the playfield. If you get a chance to get one of these games, the whole top half of Cue Ball Wizard was based on this machine. John Norris feels like I do that this is one of the classic great games of all time. 2001. If you can get the special lid on this game, you can win 15 games on one ball. I've done it before myself. It's just an incredible game. And then the last game we're going to go over real quick is Closet Cases of the Nerd Kind. And of course, this one is turned off because it's a Gottlieb game and it's probably broken. But this has got the roto target right there. Roto target was a good feature. They only used it a couple more times after this because it was real expensive for them to make. And I can't complain about Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We made a lot of money with these games. And that should do it. We'll go back over there. Okay, here we are. We're way up high, and we're looking at a big 360 rotating camera shot of all the stuff. If you see anything in particular you want detailed on the next tape, go ahead and when you send me your $6, you deadbeats, go ahead and mention a game you want to see. This is all the stuff that's up on legs is all finished stuff. Again, each one of these represents about a week out of my life. And of course, like everything else in my life, it's a big disorganized mess. But the real mess is over here. This is the unfinished section. This is like the end of Indiana Jones there, the Temple of Doom, where they're pushing that box through that giant warehouse. This is probably, you can't see it too well from here, but there's probably about 800 games here sitting and waiting for me to go through them. out of the 384 different Gottlieb games, I have 382 of them here. You're looking at the Gottlieb section right now. And if you want a real trivia test of your knowledge, tell me what all those heads are over there, just based on the outside paint. That'll separate the true pinball nuts from the amateurs. Be able to tell a machine just based on what the outside paint is. And over here we got some video games. Kick them, break them, smash them. Video games. I pick them up for nothing, or I don't get them. And that's cool. Okay, this is my big pile of wooden legs, and if you'll look, each one of these legs has been wire tied. There's no tape around the legs pulling the finish off. It doesn't look like much, but there's probably about $1,000 worth of furniture grade oak and ash sitting there. And there's also about 2 days worth of my time sorting all these things out and wire tying them and taking all the tape off. You can see here, if you ever get legs, please don't use any tape, because what happens is it pulls the finish up, or the finish on the other parts will change. Go ahead and get some wire and just tie them together. It's much better than tape. Oh, and here's an official Pingame Gerbil. And if you send me in a bunch of money, you will get one of these squeaky, fun pets that you can have in your game room. It's got this really long tail. Oh, and over the summer we ran out of space, so we decided to make these big racks here. And if you run out of space, I recommend making racks like this, then sliding the games in, kind of like a set of drawers. And it's not much fun to look at the games this way, but it's very space efficient. You can put in 3 to 5 times the stuff in the same amount of space. And all this racking I dug out of a dumpster at one of the casinos. I love dumpster diving at casinos because these people are so horrendously inefficient.
What if you don't live by a casino?
Well, if you live in a normal place, unlike Fantasyland here, you probably won't get as much good stuff. But yeah, this is Williams Land in here. All this stuff here is mainly Williams games. And if we want to turn around this way, this is Bally Land. Over this way, we'll look down one row of Bally games. And if you see those 3 heads way down there on the left, I'll be damned, that's 3 fireball heads. Yes, it's true, I have 3 fireballs and you have none. Ha ha! And I'm not giving them up either. Ha! But yeah, that's just miscellaneous Bally games. Okay, if you're watching this in 1996, this is a plug for Herb Silver's Pinball Fantasy 96 show, which is going on here in Vegas. That's not the official name of it. The official name is the Herb Show, featuring Tim doing all the work. Like a total dummy, I volunteered that I would bring over 100 machines, thinking, oh, he'll be sensible about it. He'll have his little pinball show in the spring or in the fall. But no, he has to choose July 26th, 27th, and 28th, when it's 115 degrees at night in Vegas. So I have to load up 100 machines in the sweltering heat. But yeah, if you want to slow your tape down, you can look at all the details. They got a vintage auction. They're probably, yeah, there's his hotline number. So if you want to call, no, that's the auction hotline number. Here's his number.
Oh, free.
No, that's not even his number. Where's his number?
It's Riviera.
Here it is, right up here. Call Herb at 818-761-BALL. And that's his number. But yeah, you can go to his silly little Herb show featuring Tim doing all the work. Now it comes to the favorite part of our little tape thingy here, the awards section. And we have 2 awards. We have the Evil Eye Award for something that we think really sucks and we don't like. And then we have the Kitchen Sink Award, which is for the stuff that we really like. And so the Evil Eye Award this time goes to a product we all know and love, Cover Your Glass. Now, people have different opinions about Cover Your Glass. We're going to show you some of the things that happen if you're not careful with it. This back glass I did with Cover Your Glass, and you can see it's all bubbled. What happens is, because it's not as flexible as it could be, it dries in a very hard sheet. You can see that if there's any air in it, the air will expand when it gets hot, and you'll have these annoying bubbles. And what happens is, if you have an immense quantity of heat, you'll end up with these ugly blisters. And you can see there's little air bubbles trapped in there. Another problem that more people have had is that it doesn't react well with cold. Many people have had a problem with cover your glass getting cold and shattering. It literally shatters into a sheet like a piece of glass. And the problem I have with cover your glass isn't that if it's exposed to extreme heat or extreme cold, it's damaged. The problem I have was that cover your glass was represented to the collectors as a polyester. I was told by the people that made it that it was a solvented polyester. Now my experience with polyester, it's like those 2-liter pop bottles, which are polyester. They're very strong and they stretch a little bit, and they're not rigid. Something that's rigid will crack and bust apart before it'll stretch a little bit. What cover your glass actually is, come to find out, is this stuff. Here's an actual jar of what it is. It's a high gloss brush-on glaze for plaster pottery, or my favorite, rocks. So you've got some rocks and you want to make them all shiny. You get a jar of this stuff and you put it on. It's not a polyester, it is solvented, but it's a very rigid plastic, and I don't have a problem with the product. I have a problem with the people that sold it representing it as being one thing when in fact it was something else. And what I've done, instead of using the cover your glass, I called up Sun Process, the people in Chicago who do all the plastic works for the pinball companies, and I ordered a roll of Supro film. And what that is the same stuff that they make the playfield Mylars out of. It's an optically clear Mylar.
I can't see it.
You can't see it. It's optically clear. If you look at this little flaky piece here, this is a World Fair glass. You can run your finger over it. Boy, I have cruddy looking fingers. Look at that. I got all banged up fingers like I've been picking my nose.
There goes that hand model job.
Yeah. You can see that paint won't come up off of there. Now the basic problem with anything you use to protect the paint on your glass is that you're not adding adhesion between the paint and the glass. The only thing you can do is add something on the back of the paint to hold it together as a unit. Sooner or later it will let go from the glass. All you can do is hope to patch up the back side of it and make it stay in place once it comes off. What you do is you take the Supro film, which is basically a playfield Mylar, and you put it on with a squeegee, a silkscreen squeegee, and you pull all the air bubbles out of it like that, and then you can go ahead and if you want to, you can razor knife out the score windows and stuff.
How about cleaning it or surface preparation?
Well, you don't. You want to, the problem is if you try to blow the dirt off or wipe the dirt off, you're going to end up taking off as much paint as you do dirt. So again, you just have to take it on a case-by-case basis. I no longer use the cover your glass. I've gone either to Krylon spray paint for small areas. Krylon makes a clear spray paint, which is spray paint with no pigment. Yeah, you can see he's got a little bit of a problem there on his face. He's lost one of his eyes. I use a clear Krylon spray paint, or I use the Mylar film. The Mylar film is available from Sun Process in Chicago. Now that Wyco's out of business, you can't buy it from them. But they're in the phone book, Sun Process Company, in one of the north suburbs of Chicago. And that's pretty much it. Oh, I got two more things. We got to stop the tape. Okay, our kitchen sink award this time goes to a chemical, just like Cover Your Glass got the Evil Eye award. This is another chemical. It's called Goof Off. What it is a chemical called xylene with a little bit of toluene in it. You don't really have to know what it is, except that it takes off old, dried latex paint. Now, if you get a cabinet in, we've got it sitting here on a Bally Fun Cruise. If you look at the back of this Fun Cruise, when I got this game, it was covered with hideous blue house paint. You get a lot of games in that are covered with paint. Mom the kid brings a game home and Mom says, "You're not putting that ugly game in there." But this is what the whole cabinet looked like. Really cruddy. Now the paint underneath here is an enamel-based paint, which is not latex. And what you do is you take and you cover the whole side of the machine with the goof off, or you can get it under other names. There's generic brands, but I like the genuine goof off. Cover it with the goof off, and you wait about 15-20 minutes, and then you can take a dull razor blade and just kind of scrape the latex. Comes up like a big rubber sheet, and underneath, totally undamaged, is the original paint. Some areas you have to go at twice. Other areas it comes up like a big rubber sheet. The only problem you've got is if you look in anywhere where there's an indentation or a scratch, the original blue paint can still be seen in the cracks. You can't always get it all out of the cracks. So if you ever get a game in that you got covered with house paint, it doesn't work for spray paint, unfortunately. Only the house paint. I would recommend goof off. And we also have another chemical that we're going to give the kitchen sink award, something I can't live without, goop. You can get this is a half-used tube. You can get this at any one of the home club stores. Walmart has it. What it is an industrial grade rubber cement. It's
stronger than glue.
Stronger than glue. It's great for everything. I use it instead of electrical tape in a lot of instances. If I have something I don't want to wrap with tape, I just gob some goop on it. It comes out of the tube clear. You just take this off and it comes out in big gobby gooey things. Smells great, gives you a bomb grade buzz working with it.
It's like rubber cement.
It is rubber cement. It's like silicone, and the best thing about it is if you don't like what you've done, it comes off. Once it's dried, it pulls up kind of like rubber cement does. I'm getting high just smelling this little bit. If you have these lenses on the pinball machine, see that number 11 there? A lot of times you'll get a game in and that'll be loose. All you have to do is take and run some of the goop around the inside hole and around the outside of that lens and put it in there, and it will dry. It will hold its whatever position you put it in, it will hold that position, unlike Elmer's glue, which sinks down in. Elmer's glue is also permanent. This, if you don't like what you've done, you just go ahead and pop it up like you would rubber cement. It's great for fixing cabinets. It's strong. You can take it off if you don't like what you've done, and it's got such a wonderful fragrance. So yeah, Mike Wiley in Michigan turned me on to this stuff, and I'm hooked on goop. So the two things I recommend you get are goop and goof off. So that's the winner of our Kitchen Sink Award for this issue. Okay, this is the bingo part of our show. We're getting some interest all of a sudden in bingos, so we decided we would just take one of the kinds of bingos and spotlight one on every tape. This is what's called a Mystic Lines bingo. This one was made starting in about 1962, right up to the end of bingos in 1981. This is a 20-hole bingo. That's the main reason why a lot of players didn't like the Mystic Lines, is the fact that there wasn't 25 holes, there's only 20. They thought they were getting ripped off a little bit. If you get a wider shot of the playfield, normally there'd be 2 more holes here, 2 more holes here, 1 more hole down here for a total of 25. That gives you a lot more suspense when you're bouncing around down here at the bottom of the playfield than just the 20-hole bingo. What is neat about a Mystic Lines is the fact that these numbers back here actually move, and what you can do is, let's say our ball lands in number 4. Now we can take that 4 and move it from the yellow section to the red section, and then we can shoot another ball, and let's say it lands in number 8. So now we got 1 in yellow and 1 in blue. I can go ahead, whoops, that didn't help, did it? Oh well, you can move the cards around. Let's say we get a 5. 5 is a good number. Now I can move the 5 up here to yellow, and now I have 2 in yellow. So it actually lends itself to a lot of different combinations by moving it. The idea is that you want to get 3, 4, or 5 in one color section, and it pays these odds down here. So if I get 3 in a row, I win 16 credits, 4 in a row wins 50 credits, and 5 in a row gives me 96 credits. And then of course you trade the credits in with a bartender for cash.
Hey, isn't that illegal?
It's only illegal if you get caught.
Oh, go.
And it also has other features on it, like the ball return feature. Let's stop the tape and we'll see.
You're on.
Okay, this is one of the later bingos. This one was actually made in 1979. If you look, you can tell the later bingos because they have this immense wooden frame around it. And over here we have one of the older 60s bingos. If you look at the frame on that, it's more curved and rounded, and it doesn't have this lock on here. What's kind of weird about this is this game, if you look here on the side of the machine, was actually built in 1979 when they were making such games as Flash Gordon and Xenon. It finished up the assembly line on 9/9 of 79. It's actually hammered into the wood. They passed a federal law saying that all gaming devices, gambling devices, had to have a date of manufacture on them. So starting in like 1976, all the bingos have the actual date of manufacture on them. They made these mechanical bingos as late as 1981, which is incredible considering that the last mechanical pinballs were made in 1978. If you look at these springs here, you can still get these springs from Suzo Trading. Whoop, your lens slipped there. You can still get these from Suzo Trading, and it looks really nice. If you get a bingo, I would recommend buying a set of new springs. It also makes it a little bouncier. Also, for some reason in the late 70s, Bally stopped putting the words "a Bally product" on these little clamshell things. So I'm trying to find some of those that say "a Bally product" and update all of mine. But if you look at the back of this game, it's quite immense. Anybody that's thinking of getting into bingos, this is what you're getting into. This is about the most complex electromechanical thingy that they ever made. There's lots of strange units, lots of convoluted logic, and they got a wire cable the size of your fist. So before you get into bingos, keep in mind that they're an immense project. And one favor you can do yourself is that if you are looking at a bingo, stick your nose down inside the cabinet, and if you smell the wet bingo smell, don't buy it. Yeah, you can see this has all the nice plastic coated wire instead of the cotton covered wire that the early bingos did. And the colors, you can still tell what the colors on the wires are. They haven't faded out. But yeah, bingos are kind of fun. If you have a particular style of bingo you want to see in the next tape, when you send us your $6, you deadbeats, here's a magic screen bingo. Maybe somebody might want to see one of those next time. Whatever you want, drop us a note when you send us the $6, and we'll do it from there. What we're going to do now is we've got a lot of confusion in people's minds about the way Gottlieb would make the same machine, only different for different markets. If you ever get a list of pinballs, you'll see a lot of names of games you've never seen. You might live in a replay state. You've heard of Abracadabra, but you've never heard of Team 1 or Kicker, which are exactly the same game, only made for different markets. We'll start with the Abracadabra, which is of course a replay game. Now you win games on the play meter for topping the score, and a match number gives you a replay. That's what makes it a replay game. You can tell because you got this little meter here, which shows you how many games you've won, and you can actually play again. Now some states, particularly New York State and Wisconsin, were what were called add-a-ball states. So Gottlieb would make a separate add-a-ball machine for New York State and Wisconsin, and all you could do was win balls for topping a score. You couldn't win a whole game. Now what was kind of weird about this is if you look at this play field, it's exactly the same layout as this play field, only the art is different. We could speculate all afternoon about why they changed the art. My theory is that since they were selling this game to Europe and soccer is popular in Europe, they decided to go with a soccer theme. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Italian novelty play. Now, in Italy, certain things were legal and illegal. One of the things that was illegal was the word flipper. So if you ever find an Italian game, instead of saying flipper buttons on side of cabinet, it will just say buttons on side of cabinet. It will say insert coin only when coin entrance is lit, and it says D. Gottlieb and Company, USA. Now, it also has this mysterious red spot here. Now what that is on the American versions over here, that red spot says credit when lit. The word credit was also illegal in Italy. Now on this Italian model, every time you hit one of these wows, instead of getting a free ball, you get 50,000 points. We'll start the game up here. now we have the targets lit for wow. Now instead of hitting a free ball, it knocks the knocker 5 times and gives us 50,000 points. Like that. Now you can see that with only 5 score dials, it would be real hard to keep score if you were constantly hitting 50,000 at a pop. So what they did was over here in the clouds on the back glass, they put a series of numbers so it'll step up to 200, 300,000, like that. You can score up to 1,900,000 on this game. Also, if you convert this to add-a-ball play, they took the words wow off the backs of these flags. In Italy, any mention at all of free games or anything, free plays, free balls, would get you in trouble, so they had to be very careful about the way the game looked. Now in this game over here, if you start it up, now if you win a free ball on this one, it'll knock once and it'll give you a little flag that says wow. Now what that means is you get an added ball, and you can add up to 5 flags on there. It's really kind of weird that they would make the same game 3 different ways, but I talked to several of the Gottlieb designers at the Pinball Expo, and they pointed out the fact that in many cases Italy would be 60 to 80% of a game's production run. Apparently during the 60s and 70s, pinball was such a big fad in Italy that they were literally everywhere. One more weird thing about Abracadabra, which is a good game, is that the art for Abracadabra was actually made, I had the page here. The art for this game was actually held over from another machine called Wizard, and all I have is a picture from the book here. If you look at the book right there, that's the picture of the game Wizard, which was made only for Italy, and you'll notice that it's got a very strange playfield bottom. Let me tilt the book back a little bit.
Right there.
Yeah. Now if you look at the picture, the black and white picture of the back glass, pan up to the back glass there, it looks a whole lot like Abracadabra. Now what happened is they made the Italian model first and decided that it wasn't a very good game, so they decided not to build a replay model, which is the only time in Gottlieb's history they've ever done that. And then they used the artwork later when they made a new game called Abracadabra. So that's just one of those deep trivial items we like to get into. Again, if you've got any complaints about our silly little tape here, drop us a line and send us 6 up the game. What we've picked out is one of Ugly Mike's favorites, Gottlieb's Flying Circus. You need to know about it. I played this game a lot as a kid. It's the first game they had with balls that loop in the center. Now the whole purpose of the game, start one up here, is to go ahead and knock these balls around like that. Of course it's not working. Oh, I see. It's tilted. That's what's wrong. Is to knock these balls around like this. If you can get all 3 balls on the lit side, not only do you score 100 points for every loop, you can get them all over there, you win a free game, which is kind of a neat feature. The only problem I have with this game is when the ball comes up and hits this ball, it deadens it so that it just floats back down, and usually right down the middle. Another problem I have with this game was the fact that it has a gobble hole here, which will gobble the ball up if you lose it. It's also got your normal side drain right here, which you'll take the ball and lose it that way. You've also got a pretty wide gap here at the flippers, so there's lots of ways to lose it. But there's also this center shot, which you can keep hitting and get the special. It's also got another thing which I really like is lots of tight bumpers, where the ball is real close to a bumper and a rubber cushion, so you get that good bouncing action there. I also like the artwork a lot. The artwork on this game is pretty damn neat. It's got all the usual Parker stuff. It's got the little word balloon here where the chicken is being choked. The chicken? He is choking his chicken. He's choking his chicken, a little clown there, and it's going help. And of course, we got to point out the fact that Roy Parker, the artist who did this game, it's kind of politically incorrect now, but he's got hobophobia. If you'll notice, all his clowns are always dressed like hobos. And here's another one over here. So we figured the guy must have been hobophobic. This is also the third back glass I've had on this game. It looks real nice because I got it from Mayfair Amusement brand new. It's one of the few 60s games that they had that were new. And don't try to get one now because I bought the last one. This whole center thing they reused again in November of '62 on a game called Sunset, which is pretty much the same game with a few changes along the top. We have the theory that if a game did well and the operators liked it, they would bring it back a year and a half later with slightly different art and a different name. That way they wouldn't force down the resale value of the original ones. Then they used this same type of an area in 1963, October, for a game called Flying Chariots, which if you ever get a chance to get one of those, that's another great game. Only instead of having balls in the middle, you just have a little passageway. You try to shoot it all the way up to the top and hit a fan target. We also think, we've got a theory that they must have thought that this loop action was going to come back at some point because they paid a lot of money to make a die for this center plastic piece, which is all, you probably can't see it too well on the tape, but it's 3D, which meant that they had to actually make a die that would put those ridges in there and the ridge around this 100-point thing. So they must have had some confidence that the feature was going to be a hit, or they wouldn't have put the kind of money into that that they did. Now what we've done is Mike and I have gone around and we have rated these games on the way they look, the way they sound, and how much fun they are to play. I gave Flying Circus the looks, I gave it a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. And Mike here, he gave it a 6. He does not like it. He said it was a little dull. I think it's great. It's got clowns, it's got women flying through the air. As far as the fun, I rated it a 6. And Ugly Mike really likes this game. He plays it all the time. He gave it an 8. Okay, this is our next game. The one we've picked is Surfin' Safari. There's all the information you need to know. It's a great game, and John Norris was really hitting his stride as a designer at this point. I really like this game. I got this one from Herb Silver's down in California. The center part here, this grid, John Norris told me was actually based on a 50s game called Easy Aces. And on Easy Aces, if you got all 5 of a row, you got 1 award, and if you got all of a column, you got another reward. So what you have is a trade-off in strategy. Sometimes you want to go for a row, sometimes you want to go for a column. Interesting feature, it's also very colorful. You have the purple, red, yellow, green, orange, all the colors, and it's flashing and it's bright. I really like that a lot. Another thing I like about the playfield on this game is this whirlpool shot right up here. What you got to try to do, it's a very late shot off the left flipper, and it's also near the top of the playfield, so you have to get a lot of power to get it up this ramp and into this little cup where it swirls around and scores big points. It's a dangerous shot because if you miss it, you could go down the side or the ball could go careening out of control. But if you do make the shot consistently, you'll get from 50,000 up to 1 million per revolution in the whirlpool. It's also got these colorful little marijuana plants on it. So yeah, Mike, calm down. And we got this alligator with an illuminated nose, which is kind of neat. And this is Rodney, is the name of the critter. I think they got that from like some toy store or something.
Rodney the pig-nosed alligator.
Yeah, Rodney. And I also like the sounds on this game. They're great. It plays it plays the Surfin' Safari music, and it's also got a kind of a Jamaican accent guy who gives you prompts throughout the game. But it's a very colorful game. It's got great sounds. And it's got that bird. I don't know if you can hear the bird. But at one point during the game, the Jamaican sounding guy goes, "Do you want to pet my monkey?" So again, you get all these references to masturbation and stuff, which is kind of cool. It's also got great shots because it tells you what to shoot for. If you can get all the oranges, you light this target for 3 million per hit. Now that looks like an easy shot from each flipper, but that's an extremely small target, so it's hard to hit. Also, you can get extra balls and specials, and there's a countdown mode. And somewhere during the game, if you hit the hole at the top, you could get awarded everything, which is everything you can possibly win. An extra ball, a special, all the features on the playfield, everything. It literally gives you everything you can win. I've only had it happen to me twice, but it's really kind of neat just to get like every single thing that you can get from a pinball machine at once. And of course, another good part about this game is yummy, good junk food. Now there's words to live your life by. Yummy, good junk food. Another thing I like about the Gottlieb games of this era, as opposed to the Williams games, is stuff like, if you look on the side here, you'll notice that you have a full stainless steel rail that will, there you go, it completely covers the flipper button so you don't get that paint wearing off. The Williams games are so cheap, they only give you a rail up to here, and then the paint around your buttons ends up getting worn off from the oils that are on your hands. Another thing I like about the Gottlieb games is that they have good, sturdy, American-made coin doors from Coin Controls, which hold up a lot better than the cheap Taiwanese doors that Williams used. You can push in the cubes on these, and they always spring back. If you ever find a Williams game like a High Speed or a Whirlwind or something like that, you can push these cubes in, and about half the time they stick. They're really cheaply made. So these have real nice coin doors. And another thing I like about the Gottliebs of this era is the fact that they've got those two big speakers up at the top, and they kind of blare down at you when you start the game. You get the big scary noises. That's nice. The Williams games always put the speakers down inside the cabinet, and you got kind of a muffled sound. And you know what they say, if it's too loud, you're too old. Oh, and the best part about the game is right here. You might not notice it at first, but what we got here is a very horny cat. There's this cat that's kind of coming after her butt there. So they always put in weird stuff in the corners of the games. But both Mike and I rated this game. I say on this game, for me, the fun is a 9.5. The looks are a 7. I think the colors could have been brighter. The cabinet's all painted black. I don't like too much black on a game. But I do really like the way the glass looks. It could have been screened on glass instead of the stupid styrene insert that they use. So I only give it a 7 on looks. As far as the sounds, I really like the sounds. I'm going to give it a solid 10 as far as the sounds. Now Mike rated it for fun. He rated it an 8. And the looks, he rated it an 8. And for the sounds, he also liked the sounds. He gave it a 9. So that's Surfin' Safari. One of the games we picked to show you on our little tape thingy. Okay, we're going to do 2 in a row. Okay, this is a 2 in a row kind of thing. We're doing a tribute to a guy who recently died. None of the other pinball magazines, the Pingame Journal or the Game Room, nobody noted the passing of a truly great guy in the pinball thing. Ray Maloney, a guy who took Lion Manufacturing in 1929 and turned it into the Bally Manufacturing Company, the true colossus of the coin machine business, passed away. He was 87 years old. He was living in Palm Springs. So the Pingame Gerbil is the only people who is going to note his passing. So we're going to do 2 Bally games in a row, starting with the oldest Bally game I've got, Bally Rambler, from March of 1931. It's the first game that Bally assigned a model number to. It's game number 1. It's actually the 3rd machine they built. If you look at it, it looks pretty simple. What it is just a countertop game. Would sit in a cigar store or a candy store, and people would put a penny in the chute. They would elevate the ball like that, and they would shoot it like this. And if your total number of points for the 5 or 7 balls that you played equaled some amount that you would total up in your head, this was before they had calculators and automatic scorekeepers, you would win a cigar or some money or a candy bar or something of value. This shows early on that Bally was into the whole idea of machines as gambling. That's mainly what Bally was doing throughout the 40s and 50s. was making primarily bingo machines and gambling machines. But in the 60s, they decided to get back into the pinball machine business. So they got a hold of a designer called Ted Zale, who was living in Arkansas. Not a whole lot is known about Ted Zale. This is an early Bally machine called Hootenanny. It's from 1963. George Malenton, the guy from Ad Posters, the art director at Ad Posters, did the art on this one. This is an interesting game. It's the 5th modern Bally game after they resumed pinball production in 1961. You can tell the early Bally games have the large yellow score dials as opposed to the smaller yellow score dials. This one's kind of interesting because it's got what's called a holdover feature. Now, if you'll notice here, you've almost spelled the word Hootenanny. Now, if you spell Hootenanny, it gives double replay, so all I have to do is get that Y, and I'll get 2 free games. Now, the idea was, as a kid, I would always look for a game with a holdover feature that was about ready to pay off. And then I'd put my dime in it and play it, knowing that I would be the one that would collect on everybody else's efforts. On this one, to get the holdover feature, all you have to do is hit number 1, number 2, number 3. Now, you'll see that the free ball gate is open. And if I drop the ball down here, we'll see that it'll add a Y, which will complete the word Hootenanny and give us 2 games and 200 points. So that was kind of a neat feature. Now somebody else is going to have to go ahead and beef that back up and do all that work, and I'll come along the next day and collect it again. I got this game from Doll Music in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is kind of near Fargo. In 1983, these guys at Doll Music, when they finished with a game, they wouldn't trade it in or sell it off to somebody's basement. They would just park it in this giant storeroom. And I came across games from the 50s and the 60s in there that they'd been tagged with the date that they had been put away. And I bought games in 1983 that had been sitting since 1969. So they were all in real good shape. If you look at the cosmetics on this game, it's in excellent shape. Very few of those hidden stashes of great-looking games are left. One thing I did have to do, yeah, look, there's nice original scorecards, very clean. One thing I did have to do is go through and paint the coin door. The coin door was in pretty rough shape. You can see I picked it flat. I made it flat again, and I painted it a nice neutral green, and all the mechanisms have been properly lubricated. In order to make a properly lubricated coin mech, you should be able to push it in with your little finger. If you can't push it in with your little finger, it's rusted and it needs to be re-lubricated. Another problem with the Bally games of this era is you get these big cast metal corners like this. You've probably seen this on some of your 60s games. This chrome corner happens to be from a Gottlieb game. You can see that it's got all that cruddy corrosion stuff on it. A real easy solution and a non-permanent solution you can do is to go to Taiwan Tool Town and buy yourself some tool dip. Now, tool dip is just the stuff that they make the handles of screwdrivers and pliers. They dip them in this stuff. You can take the tool dip and tie a string. I just tie a string around this little protrusion of a bolt here, and then I dip it in the tool dip and pull it out slowly. I usually use 2 coats of it, and no matter what you do, no matter how slowly you pull it out of there, you're always going to have a little dimple, like here. There's a little dimple. So try to hide the dimple on the underside by pulling the overside out of the jar first. Another good thing about this tool dip is that if you don't like it, if you ever want to go back to the original, all you have to do is pull this stuff off with a pair of pliers and you're back to your original metal. You're not permanently changing the metal. I highly recommend it. I think tool dip is actually the name of it. It's a trade name. It's available at any one of the large tool supply houses. I would also recommend that you get it only in the black, because if you get the white or the yellow, eventually the dirt from your hands will show up on it. Black is a nice dark color that won't show the dirt. And also the feel of this, it feels real nice on your hands, having that kind of rubbery cushiony thing. So when you're playing the game and you decide you want to give it a little bit of a slap, you can go like that and you don't hurt your hands. But yeah, that's 2 games in a row from Bally, kind of as a Ray Maloney tribute now that the man has passed on. Okay, we're going to do another 2 in a row kind of thing here. we've picked two classic Williams games from the late 70s. This is kind of when Williams was the top of the heap in the pinball world. And for some reason, I've always lumped these two games together in my mind. This is the first talking pinball, Gorgar. Here's all the things you need to know about it right there. The problem is, it isn't really the first talking pinball. They made a few Disco Fevers, and they put talking chips on the Disco Fevers as kind of a demonstration thing. They had it at the trade show that year. I remember seeing a talking Disco Fever and thinking how cool it was. Both of these two games here I bought new in the box and took good care of, so these are both one-owner games. The thing about Gorgar is the reason it was popular was that it would say, "Gorgar, eat me," which is, if you listen to it, that's exactly what it says. And the back glass is pretty wacky too. If you look at this here, you got all these guys running around in underwear, but she didn't have time to put clothes on, but she did have times to have her nails done. So it's like, where did they find like nail polish in a cave and stuff? Pretty damn weird. I remember a couple parents complained when this game came out that it was satanic. It had like kid meetings and skulls and stuff. But yeah, it's a good game. I think it's kind of a holdover from a mechanical game because of course you got A, B, C at the top, which reminds me, you know, of all those 70s games where A, B, C gets double bonus, and you got a bonus counter in the middle. It was kind of like they were locked into this electromechanical type thinking. Another cool thing is they got this magnet grabber up here, which is labeled "Beware of the Pit." Now what that does is there's a big ass magnet under there, and it'll actually grab the ball and hold onto it for a minute, and then release it back to you. It's kind of neat. Another thing I like about this game is the heartbeats. As you go along and play it a little, that heartbeat will start to get faster and faster. And if you have a really long playing ball, it'll start to get faster and faster, like you're getting more and more excited. And our mascot, the Pingame Gerbil, actually likes this game a lot. He's got a quarter. He's ready to play it. He's got crazy flipping front claws right there. He kind of grips the machine there. But yeah, this is Gorgar. Pretty good game from the late 70s. This one's real clean. Then they came out with another game. This one here is Firepower, and this is from 1980. There's everything you need to know about that. You can see they made quite a few of them. This is one of the highest production games ever. I think we bought like 9 or 10 of them. What's weird about this particular game is, if you'll notice here, instead of the stationary targets, what you've got are drop targets. Now, originally, the game was designed to have drop targets here instead of the stationary targets that they all had on them. What happened was the factory, just like they always did, decided to cheap out. And they decided it was cheaper to use 6 stand-up targets than to spend the extra money for a drop target. But then several collectors began to realize things like, if you look at your schematic on here, you'll notice that down here in this corner, it's 4 to 6 drop targets reset and 1 to 3 drop targets reset. So there actually is circuits in there for a reset coil, and the switches are in there. The wiring is even in the early ones. They left the wiring in the cable and they just wrapped a piece of electrical tape around it. Then on some of the later manuals, they actually got around to removing any references. They put, for coils 2 and 3, they put "not used," which is their way of saying that we were too cheap to put it in there. Yeah, coils 2 and 3 are not used. So we began to get a hint that it was in there. So all you have to do is find an old scrap flash game or some other game where you can get some drop targets. The holes for these screws are even punched in the wood, so you don't even have to do any strange alignment. All you have to do is just hook up these wires here and these wires here, and all of a sudden you've got a set of drop targets where you used to have stationary targets. If you want more detailed instructions, give me a call. I can tell you what you need to do. But Firepower was always a real big money-earning game. it's the kind of game that made money for a period of years instead of a period of months. A lot of operators now talk about games like the Addams Family and how they have great legs. And Firepower in its day was the same way. It just kept earning and earning and earning and earning. Another problem with all the Firepowers you see is that this target here is this plastic here is almost always broken off. For some reason it's stuck out a little too far and the ball would hit it and snap it off. If somebody's thinking about doing some reproduction plastics, it'd be a real nice idea if somebody could remake this guy here. Also, a lot of the original back glasses, they had a problem with paint, and almost every time you see a Firepower game, the back glass is wrecked, and Williams kind of reacted to that by redoing the glass. This is a new glass that they made later. You can tell the difference between the later games. They had more of a pink in the word Firepower, and the original was more of a red. So if you find a Firepower, good luck finding one of the glasses. I got this years ago. But basically it's got good action. It's got a multi-ball feature. It's a Steve Ritchie game, so you know it's got to have multi-ball. And I like bumpers in a nice tight nest like that. The ball goes zinging around like that. That's a lot of fun to me. Also, I like drop targets. There you go. If you get 1, 2, 3, the targets reset, or if you get 4, 5, 6, they reset. Then you can lock your ball up there for multi-ball. See, it's much more fun to play pinball when you're cheap. Then you get into multi-ball mode. It blinks, and farts, and shoots balls at you. But you can still pick up Firepower games for next to nothing because there's so many of them around. And a lot of times the boards have been damaged, so you have to do some board repair. But generally, it's a great game. If you get one, you'll really like it. So that's 2 in a row from Williams. Okay, we're going to do, before we do this game, we're putting in a plug again. This tape costs us about $6 for the postage and for the tape. And we're just sending it to you free because we figure you're going to be a good guy and send us $6. So what you want to do is either steal some stamps from work. You know, if you want to steal a roll of 50 stamps from work, hey, we won't say anything. Ugly Mike wants marijuana, cigarettes, anything else you happen to have hanging around, or just take a 5 and a 1, stick it in an envelope and send it to me. Also, we're giving away cool stuff. If you want to be like a super cool guy, we got some of these Evel Knievel, original, new old stock Evel Knievel t-shirts. I still have some of these left. I don't think I have extra large, but if you want a t-shirt, send me, I don't know, 20 to 50 bucks or something, and I'll send you. And then we got, for 50 bucks, we got the Pinball book, which is out of print now. This routinely sells for 35, 40 bucks. It's a great book. You can see inside you got all the cool color pictures. Again, we're not going to keep any of this dough. We're just going to send out more tapes to more people. Also, depending on how it works out with the post office, we might be able to send on a cheaper rate, which means we'll just be able to send more stuff out. So once again, final plug. Go ahead, write down the address. Send me your $6, and if you do send some money in, you will definitely get the next one. If you don't send any money in, there's a chance that you might not get the next one, and you'll just be living off somebody else's generosity. But enough of that shit. This is Bally Target Roll. This is another kind of a weirdo game. I want to throw in some weird stuff that people haven't seen before. This one's definitely strange. You can see that it's got a giant roulette wheel in the middle. There's everything you need to know about it. December of 1957, and it says that the factory records indicate that they only made 400 of them. But then, a while ago, I was going through some of the Elmer Cummings stuff, and I came across this receipt. Now you'll see there, Bally Target Roll, serial number 1489, or excuse me, skill roll. Oh wait, we are looking at a skill roll. That's different. This is a target roll. Okay, well that's egg on my face. This is a target roll. This is a completely different game. Okay, my mistake on that. I thought there was actually more than 400, but I guess I'm wrong again. What this is, it looks like a roulette wheel, but it plays like craps. If you start it up, it's just like playing the game of craps. You have what's called a come-out roll. Now the ball goes around and around and around. Now on the first roll, if you get a 7 or an 11, you win, just like you would get on craps. So if you get 70 or a 110, which are noted in green on this wheel here, you would win. But we didn't get that. We got a 60, which is a 6. Now it's our second roll. What we have to do is shoot to match target, which will be 6, or in this case 60. Oh, we hit 100. So it gives us points, which aren't good for anything. I think mainly what people like to do is gamble on this game like they were playing craps. Now we're going to cheat a little since we love to cheat. We're looking for 6 or 60. So if we dump it in there, we win. The game resets. And this has both a 10-cent mode and a 25-cent mode. Right now it's on 25-cent mode, where if you win, you get to continue playing until you lose. On 10-cent mode, you either win and it stops, or you lose and it stops. So now we're back to essentially a new game. This is a come-out roll. Now if we score a 7, we win again, and it starts over. So what we're going to do, shoot it a third time, and let's say we have 5 or 50. Now if we match that, we will win. So we've won again. Kind of a weird game. Now we'll go ahead, we'll hit a 40. Now this is what's called in the game of craps, crapping out. If you hit a 7 or an 11 after the come-out roll, we'll hit this 7 here real quick. Oh, sorry, game over, you lose. The highest I've ever shot on this machine is 3,200 points. It's kind of hard to get points because that's not really the point of the game. The point of the game is to either get a 7 or 11 on the come-out roll or match your target. I got this game from Georgia, and the guy that had it, it was sitting on its side in a pool of water, and this is the original trim. If you look at it, it's been eaten by worms or critters or, I don't know, wood beasts, something. But if you look at the trim on here, this is new, and all these side pieces here are actually new wood. Sometimes you have to do that on a game. The only problem with that is if you compare the grain in the original wood, like on the lockdown molding here, compare it against the grain on a new piece of wood. I went to a hardware store and got some new wood. You can see that the grain isn't as nice. So if you want to get nitpicky, there's actually kind of a difference between old wood and new wood. Also, I took the original dime shoot off and put a quarter shoot on it. I can't make any money with that. Also, this one's got the little clamshell with the words "A Bally Product," which is kind of neat. Yeah, this is a fun game. I wouldn't recommend going out of your way to find one unless you're into really weird stuff, or if you happen to be into roulette wheels or something. It's also, you can't really see it, but it's a shorter game than a regular pinball. It only goes back about 3.5 feet. And it came from the factory with this Zolatone finish, which is kind of like what they put on swing sets and stuff. It's a real durable finish. Also, this piece here was completely rusted solid. This was about 100% rust. And I've probably got 4 or 5 hours just scraping all the rust off of this. I had to redo the legs. You can see the legs have all been refinished. If you want to take enough time, you can take pretty much any game and completely redo it to make it look like new. But yeah, that's Bally Target Roll. Okay, this one is a J. France Kicker and Catcher. It's kind of a pinball, but it's kind of not a pinball. It's kind of cute. Oh, speaking of cute, what do we got here? We got Bobcat.
That's a $500 donation.
Yeah, we'll give you Bob. No, we'll give you Bob with $5. You don't even have to send us $6. This is the little guy that pissed on my back glass. But yeah, this is J. France Kicker and Catcher. Now this is based on an even earlier game, which I think either H.C. Evans or Mills Novelty made. Basically, what you got is you got a knob, which turns a little football player. And the problem is, if you turn the knob to the right, the player goes to the left. so it throws you off a little bit. Thank you, Bob. And what you do is you put your coin in. This one's been converted to a quarter. It dumps down these little balls. Then what you have to do is kick it with this guy. He's actually got a little cast metal foot there. And try to catch it with this guy. And if you can do that, it gives you the ball back. Ah! These things are kind of cute. If you can find one, if you've got a game room and you've got a bar, they're really cute. Oh, see, I caught that one. So now I'll bring it back here, and it'll give me 10 points for that. And again, if you operate one of these, you can actually give them a prize for like 40 points or something. Give them a free hot dog if they can get 40 points. It's actually kind of skillful. There's actually a lot of skill involved. They're still making this machine. Something called Johnson Products ended up buying the tooling from the estate of Jay France. It's kind of sad what happened to the guy. He had a storefront in Chicago where he was making these things. He was like 60 or 70 years old, still showed up for work every day, put together a few novelty games like Kicker and Catcher, and he was going down the street to go to lunch, and somebody put a bullet through his head, just a random sniping. So he died for no apparent reason. They just shot him. Somebody, just a stray bullet or something, killed him. And then Johnson Products in Moline, Illinois still makes them. Only now they got a gumball machine attached on the top, and they spit out tickets, and they cost $3,000. I found this one at a flea market for 75 bucks. It's kind of cool. If you get a chance to get one, you should. Here we have Spirit of 76, and of course our friend Bob the Cat is in the way. That'll make it go. Scramble, scramble. This game here, I don't know if you can see it. Let's take the glass off real quick. I put a new playfield on this game. I don't know if anybody out there has ever attempted to put a new playfield on a machine. It's Volcano. It's quite a job. If you get in real close, you can see that there's absolutely no defects on that playfield. It looks probably better today than the day it came out of the box, because I do things like polish this metal fence back here so it has a mirror finish. I put additional light bulbs so that red hole kind of glows red. I put higher quality fasteners on here. If you'll notice, these are actually elastic nuts. They're not the original PAL nuts that were on there. And that's a true machine screw, not just a sheet metal screw going in from the top. It's a machine screw coming up from the bottom. That way you don't get any of those loose posts. And also, if you want to get under here to change your rubber rings, all you have to do is just take these two off of here with a 5/16 inch tool, and you can take it off and change the rubbers. You can do it 100 times. You don't end up stripping out the wood underneath. Another thing I've done is I've bought new posts. Steve Young at the Pinball Resource sells these new posts, and if you look, they're extremely white, whereas the original post looked kind of yellowed and ucky, and you could see the lines and the dirt and stuff. I think he gets about 30 cents a post, so for about 10 bucks you can go through and put all new posts on your games. Steve Young also has reproduced these targets. You can get the new targets. The game looks really sharp. Instead of having old beat-up targets with a little line where the ball has rubbed the paint away, you can get new ones. Another thing you can do, you can't see it on here, but the back of that target is actually filled in with goop. Earlier in the program, we gave an award to Goop, a kitchen sink award, because it's such great stuff. One thing you can do with Goop is fill in the hollow spot in the back of the targets, and since it's like a rubber cement, it actually flexes a little when the ball hits it. I've only had one instance in my whole life where a Goop target has broken when the ball hits it. So it really helps make them stronger. I like to think that Gottlieb was just too cheap to go ahead and change the die to fill the hole in the back of that target in with plastic. It makes them a lot stronger. Another thing I've done on this one, you can notice up here, is I've put a skin on the outside of the rubber puck. I don't like these black rubber pucks. If you look at a Gottlieb game, they're all black, and the black isn't very bouncy. So what you want to do is you want to get a red flipper rubber that fits the Thing Flips size from the Addams family. That small Williams stubby flipper. That's a perfect size to fit around this puck. And then what happens is when the ball hits it, where's my ball? When the ball hits it, you get a real good bounce. If you watch that again, you see how it bounces back and forth almost 3 times? If this dead rubber was still there, it would just go kind of thud and fall down there like that. Another thing you can do, as long as you're going through and putting a new playfield on a game, you can get these little twin star nipples. They're called stars or whatever you want to call them. If you look at that one, you'll notice it's extremely white. That's not because I sat there and cleaned the old one. It's a lot better just to go ahead and buy a new one. And to get those out of there, you just kind of rub the back of them around and around until they pop out. They can be removed. Another thing you can do, you can make sure that you put these little cover things on top of your scorecards. That way your scorecards won't get dirty. But you got your nice original scorecard. Oh, and here's the facts on this one. That'll tell you everything you need to know about this game. Spirit of 76. Gottlieb was the only game company that managed to get their bicentennial game out in 1976. I can remember seeing in 1977 Liberty Bell from Williams and saying, boy, this is a pathetic game. Why did they even bother? It's a year late and it's an awful game. Yeah, you can also see on Gottlieb games what you can do with the metal work on it. These legs on these Gottlieb games have an incredible nickel plating on them. You can take the most rusted, most damaged leg you can find, and they all clean up to look like that. I don't know how well the camera is giving that shot, but you can see yourself in there. And this leg was probably pretty rusted when I started out. Also, the leg bolts polish up real nice. If you look at those actual leg bolts, again, they've got a mirrored finish on them. It looks like this game just came out of the factory. Same thing with the ball shooter. You can see the ball shooter's been polished. It looks like new. And this door here is actually stainless, so you can't polish it as much, but you can go ahead and use a real fine steel wool and water and get that original clean look back on there. But yeah, this game here is my keeper. And this one over here next to it, it's the same exact game. It's Spirit of 76. Only this one is the one, my spare, my second specimen. I'm going to sell this one off to somebody for their basement. You can see that the playfield on this one is a little ratty. You're getting too much glare there, but yeah, the playfield is not as nice as a new one. You can also look and see that the cabinet has got, this is the worst of the two cabinets. It's got some paint problems. It's got some flaking. Also, of course, any Gottlieb game from the 70s, the reds, wherever there's a light bulb behind a red paint, it's going to come off. But other than that, I rebuild them so that they're virtually the same mechanically. I mean, this game's going to be nice and peppy. And if you press the button, it starts up. That's, pretty much all you need to know for a home sale game. Mike, what do you think about this game as far as play? How would you rate it?
7 or an 8.
7 or 8?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think it's a 5 or a 6.
Well, I like the action on it, and I like the targets where the targets are positioned.
The problem I've got with it is that all the real goodies are up at the top, and the only way up to the top is through this little narrow gap here. I've also got a real problem with this metal fence back here. Anytime you try to shoot the ball, that metal fence deflects the ball like that. And half the time you think you've got the shot, and it bounces right back up.
And you don't.
So that kind of makes me aggravated. Also, I wish these targets scored more than 501 bonus advance. Plus, there's no way to spell eat and meat, so I automatically don't like it. Also, how would you grade the art on it? As far as the looks of it.
I give the art a 7.
A 7? No. I say it's too plain. It's just a bunch of damn stars, and the red, white, and blue is kind of irritating. It's a repeat theme. There's no green at all in this game, and I would give it about a 6 maybe on the art. I do like Gordon Morrison. He does a fine Fess Parker back there, but yeah, I don't know. I would tend to give it maybe a 6. Oh, one more thing we got to show while we're in the neighborhood. We got this over here. This is what everybody out there should do. Is if you've got some local pinheads, you should get together and form a club this is our local Pinball Collectors Club. This is some of the charity work we do. We've raised $15,764 for different charities by taking our games and putting them out in bars and restaurants. There's some of the bars and restaurants that we've put the games in. And then we just give the money to charity, which is kind of cool. You end up meeting a lot of new people that way. And I think that's where, didn't I meet you that way, or did you wander in one day off the street?
We met when I found an old 10-pin machine for $50 on my neighbor's back porch that had been sitting out there for 5 years.
Oh,
and I saw your article in the paper.
Yeah, and you stuck me with that one. Thanks, buddy.
Anytime. That's what friends are for.
But yeah, they even write us. They write us these cool letters back saying, you know, that we've been cool guys and we gave them money. So yeah, what you should do is form yourself a local Pinball Collectors Club. It doesn't have to be anything formal. I mean, you know, we don't have meetings or anything. One cool thing we do is have meetings where we just show up and play pinball 3 or 4 times a year. We'll turn on all these games in this big building here, and we'll invite everybody we know over, and we'll have what we call fun night. And what you do is you just go around and play machines for a few hours. It's pretty much fun. But yeah, let's stop now for a while. A gun game. I mean, if you get back and you take a long look at it, looks to me like your regular old Chicago coin gun kind of game. But what it actually is a pinball machine in a gun game cabinet, and what you got to do is shoot at the pinball. This is really cool. This is Chicago Coin's rocket rifle range, but it was made 2 ways. It was made both as rocket rifle range and also as champion rifle range. They had 2 different glasses. Now, this one is a rocket. The other one I've only seen this game twice, this one and another one. The other one is champion, and it has yellow with black score dials. This one has blue with yellow score dials. Why they would go to all that work to change it, I really don't know. Also, this is, it's got Parker art. You can definitely tell that's a Parker babe there. And what could be finer than chicks with guns? So, yeah, here's your little history card here. This one came from the infamous Bad Axe stash. Another one of those old operators who just happened to have hundreds of games sitting around in perfect condition. That was a real find. But basically what you do, if you look down inside here, we'll start up a game. What you've got is a regular gun game here, and then down inside you've got a pinball play field. Now, right now, I've got to shoot the ball. If you look at the top of the picture, the ball is on the rail, so I have to shoot it off the rail. Now the ball bounces around, and what I have to do is shoot at the bullseye, which on top of each one of those bumper caps is a bullseye. Now I got to shoot and try to light them up, because they're worth more when they're lit. But every time the ball hits one of those canceled bullseyes, that means that I have to shoot the bullseyes again. Kind of a pointless game. I think there's canceled bullseyes. You don't really do much. You just kind of sit here and watch it play with itself. It's unique. It's not terribly a lot of fun. There's the ball at the top again. Now I got to shoot it off the rail. I forget what you get if you get 1 through 5. You get an extended play or something. But you can see it's got some weird Parker stuff, like it's got a little woodpecker sticking out of a hole in a tree here. There's your little woodpecker right there. At least that Parker guy had a sense of humor. No hunting allowed. But the thing is, I mean, I could walk away and leave this thing, and it would just play itself. Yeah, here it says champion rifle range right there. Even though this is a rocket rifle range. Apparently that was what it was originally called, or what they changed it to. But yeah, Chicago coin gun games are kind of fun, and if you get a chance to get this one, it's extra double fun. Oh, and here's something freaky we got to show. We got a few minutes left. Let's show them something really freaky.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's Hercules. This is the world's biggest pinball. Now, I've heard differing stories about this, about why they built it. This is definitely the world's biggest pinball, and when I talked to Steve Ritchie, he told me that they built 480 of them, which seems to make sense. You used to see them everywhere, and now all of a sudden you don't see them anywhere anymore. This is actually 2 Hercules games that I melted together to make one good one. We bought one of them new originally in the box for $5,500, and then I picked up my second one a few years later for $300. This is the best of the 2. And as you can see, it uses a pool ball as a ball. The problem is the rail popped out. I've got to get in there. That's another great use for goop, by the way, is gluing rails back into holes. See where it's popped up out of the hole? So what you can do, yeah, we got too much glare in here.
Yeah.
But basically what it is, it's like those giant tomatoes that you see at the county fair. You see one and you think, boy, that's cool, a giant tomato, but then you bite into it and it's all sour. It's kind of, oh, there we go, the ball just freed itself. So here we go, we're going to shoot the ball on the world's biggest pinball machine. You can see it's got a pool ball. Ah, you screwed up, you dummy.
That's because I didn't see it.
Okay, here we go. Ball and play 2. But it's mildly amusing once or twice. It's not the kind of game I would come back to. Also, the artwork is kind of ugly. I mean, you know, they put all that work into the game, and then they get some long hair on the back glass. But Hercules is kind of fun. Also, what you should do is buy a new pool ball. That's, I think, is the original pool ball, and it's all worn out and scraped up. Get yourself a new ball. Hey, we're doing pretty good. We're scoring more. Oh, down the drain.
If I had a better partner, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, yeah. But that's Hercules. The only problem with getting this game is if you're thinking about getting one, is where are you going to find the space to put it? It uses the same board system as Superman. So it uses a new board system which is more reliable and uses standard parts instead of oddball parts. It's actually kind of repairable. And if you do get one, I've got one in scrap, so if you need some parts, I've probably got parts for it. Guy called me up the other day, he wanted to get a manual for it. I happen to have 2 manuals, so I sent him one. But this is Hercules. It's big. Okay, we're in the back. Here's another Gottlieb game. We had to do a wedge head. This is Buccaneer. July of 1976. Here's all the stuff you need to know down here. I actually called the guy up and he said he had a Buccaneer. And I said, is it the old Buccaneer from the 40s? He goes, oh yeah, it's a real old one. So I drove 2.5 hours up to his house and showed up there, and he had it in the used store down the street. And we went down there and we walked into the used store. I said, boy, that's a real clean Buccaneer there. I hope mine is as clean as that. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, that's probably the one I'm getting. So we laughed about it, ha ha ha. But this is the Buccaneer from 1976. It's got, of course, Gordon Morrison art, chicks in pink pants, and of course, nice big hooters, and all sorts of pirates hanging out on a boat. Good playing game. Let's start one up here. The basis of the game is you try to get all the numbers on the steering wheel type of thing. And you can get all the outside numbers by using spin and spot, which is this thing here. That'll spin and then it'll spot whatever number it stops on. The only problem with that is you can't get number 1 with spin and spot. The only way you can get number 1 is this rollover up here. So we're going to cheat. Now we have our 1. That lights our bumper here for 1,000. Then we can sit here in the rest of the game wail on the spin and spot. We can also get numbers by hitting the rollovers like that. And because this one's on 3 ball, you'll notice that certain numbers are tied to other numbers, like the 9 and 8 are tied together. That'll compensate for the fact that you have 2 less balls per play. And of course, when you get all the numbers down, you get that super bright red Gottlieb special. Special when lit. And when you hit that with your ball, it makes that noise. That noise that you love to hear. Which is more free games for you and less free games for the house. But this one's actually in real good shape. It didn't need a new playfield. The playfield on it is beautiful. But my only protest with the game are these bumpers here look like they're bumpers, but they're actually just dead bumpers. The ball bounces off them, and that's all you get. These are your pop bumpers, of course. Up here, which have a lot of action. I always thought it'd be a great game if you had a pop bumper over here, so if you were bouncing around in here, you'd bounce back and forth like that, and then you'd get more action off a pop bumper. I almost converted this to put pop bumpers in here when I rebuilt it, but at the last minute I chickened out and decided that the designer's original intent wasn't to do that. And the best part of it is, on the side, you've got this, the graphics match the theme of the game, which is kind of cool. And it's got, you know, a nice blue and a nice orange, and you throw a little green in the back glass. It's real nice color combination. I like this game a lot.
Me too. I rated it an 8.
For play or for looks?
For play.
For play, I'd give it a 7 or an 8. The spin and spot is what makes this game.
Yeah.
Just to wail on this flag here. And if you look at the flag, when it spins, you can see that it forms the skull and crossbones. I could never understand what that thing was until you spin it and you see it forms the skull and crossbones. Yeah, get in there real tight on that. Whoa, it's like a 3D effect. So yeah, when you send your $6, send some marijuana cigarettes for Ugly Mike here. He wants to get that feeling again. But
I think I'm an addict or something.
Yeah. Next game we got is this one. This is a Chicago coin Gunsmoke. I had made a card on it. Here it is right here. Here's everything you need to know about it right there. It's we're not sure. Nobody actually claims to have designed Chicago coin games, and there were 2 or 3 different people, amongst which are Jerry Cozy and Wendell McAdams. So we don't really know who designed it. I used to play this game a lot as a kid, so I particularly remember this game. Come off of it. What it's got is a Gunsmoke button on the cabinet, which is kind of a neat feature. You start up a game, and see on the front, you got a credit button on the door, which is here. And then you've also got this Gunsmoke button, which is up here, which is a completely different thing. What you do is you shoot the ball like that, and if you can get the ball, go in the hole, you pig, to land in the Gunsmoke hole, it sits there and rings a bell, and the guy's 6-shooter is putting out this gun smoke. What you got to do is time it so that when you press this button on the front, you're going to collect 500. Ah, I missed. I got 50. But it's kind of tricky, actually, trying to time it. And all that is a flash motor from a Chicago coin bowler. Ugly Mike's going to try it here, see what he can get. Ah, you got 500. But it's also got what Williams called a lamppost. Chicago coin called a ball saver, which is this thing here. Now it looks like the lamppost, only it's bigger. It's a big, huge thing, and it's not illuminated like the red plastic one that Chicago coin used. And also, since this post is bigger, that also means that the gap between the flippers is bigger, which is kind of weird. It's also a little bit sticky. But yeah, that's Chicago coin's answer to the lamp post that Williams had. And never once did Gottlieb use such a thing. There was only a Williams and a Bally and a Chicago coin feature. It's also got this bonus score, which is there. And I like the artwork on this one. It's a very pleasing pink. It's got a lot of pinks and reds. And it's got a lot of good violence and guns and stuff. If you look at those guys in the back glass, it's just like they're shooting each other just for fun.
We were thinking of throwing some blood on there.
Yeah. But this is like back in the 60s when violence was fun. You could have people shooting each other on TV. Yeah, it's still fun. But the last game we're going to do, we're going to close it up with another Bally game, Bally Targets. This is kind of a weird game. Everybody likes baseball games. They call them pitch and bats. But they also made pitch and bats with other themes. This one happens to be, well, I'll be damned. It's more violence, guns, and archery. So what we've got is some kind of a hunt club where there's groovy guys and groovy gals. I mean, every time I go out to shoot guns, I put on a suit. And they're, no, come on, you pervert, back off.
This looks like my wife.
This one's kind of neat. What you do is you shoot for these targets back here when they're lit red or yellow. See how the center ones are lit red and yellow? Oh, I missed. Now I lost my red. But by hitting the red ones, you increase your bonus. And by hitting the yellow ones, you increase the value of the bonus. So it's a fun little game. Basically what it is 30 shots for a dime. I've got it on quarters now. And it's just good mindless fun. But yeah, we're coming up on our 2-hour point, so we're going to have to quit. Again, send us $6. We'll send you another tape. And also, if you got any requests or any suggestions, just drop us a note. The number's on the box that the tape came in. And yeah, I guess if enough people send us in $6, we'll do another one. So we'll see you on the next tape.